Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today what we are going to be going over is the 2016 presidential election if third parties generally did not exist. So what this is basically based off of is the notion that Hillary Clinton lost the 2016 presidential election due to third party voting. They blame Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, and many others for her loss. And today what we are going to be looking at is, whether or not those claims are unfounded or are founded in, actual data. So what I did in compiling this data was for every Gary Johnson voter, I gave 2/3 of them to Donald Trump, as, libertarians are more right-leaning. However, there are still probably those never-Trumpers that did vote for Gary Johnson just because. So, 2/3 for Trump, 1/3 for Clinton. And in addition to that, I also had for Jill Stein's voters, I had 4/5 of them go to Hillary Clinton and 1/5 to Donald Trump. I don't see too many, Jill Stein supporters going over towards Trump, especially since, it is a very far left party. And the fact is, it's not really going to attract a lot of people who would vote for Trump. If anything, they would significantly go for Hillary Clinton. And then for the remaining parties, including, Evan McMullin, I just grouped him into the rest of the parties. I'm just splitting them evenly because, they could either go either way. There is Evan McMullin. There's also, the writing campaign in Vermont for Bernie Sanders. So there's a lot of information to kind of decode, and I just try to make this as simple as possible. So, going through a bunch of states, I'm going to characterize all of the safe states. So the state of California is going to be a safe state, along with the state of Illinois, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, DC, Maryland, and I think that's it. Oh, and Hawaii. So, all these states, including Hawaii, they are all safe democratic states. It might seem a little weird to see some states not filled in, but, this is just including all these facts. Now for safe Trump states. The state of Idaho is safe. The state of Utah is safe. This might seem a little weird, especially with Evan McMullin receiving so much of the vote here. However, Trump won it by an 18-point margin, and if anything, Gary Johnson voters kind of helped push him over the edge even further. So this is still a safe characterization for President Trump. And again, my characterizations are 0 to 1 points are tilt, 2 to 5 points is the lean characterization, and then 5 to 15 is likely. The state of Montana is also safe, along with Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large. Their 1st and 3rd congressional districts are additionally going to be, safe Republican. The state of Kansas is also safe. The state of Oklahoma is safe, along with Arkansas, Missouri, Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, West Virginia, and that's about it. So far, Hillary Clinton has a lead with all the safe regions, but, this is definitely going to change. Looking into likely Democratic states, the state of Washington and Oregon, 2 states solidly Democratic, states that Trump is not really going to focus on, and he really shouldn't, as these are not even in play for him in the 2020 presidential election. They have, a trifecta of Democratic legislatures, only having, I think, 3 Republican representatives in the state of Washington, and then 1 in Oregon. No Republican senators in either of these states, no Republican governors in either of these states. These are solidly blue states that are going to be, in a likely characterization. Oregon already was. Washington, however, with the Gary Johnson supporters, kind of fluctuating over, they actually pushed him into pushed the state of Washington into the likely characterization, because it was pretty on the fence before, but it was still considered safe. So this is not a good sign for Hillary Clinton so far in this map. Another likely state would be the state of New Mexico. Hillary Clinton won the state by about 8 points, and this was also Gary Johnson's best state, his home state. He got about 9.5 percentage points here, and in theory, that might really benefit Trump, considering the fact that he gets 2/3 of Gary Johnson voters. However, it did narrow it up, but it did not make it under 5 points. What else? The state of Delaware and New Jersey and Rhode Island. All of these are going to be likely characterizations. So all of these, except for Rhode Island, were already likely, and this just kind of stayed about the same. Rhode Island was just narrowly pushed over into the likely characterization. And in addition to that, Maine's 1st congressional district is also a likely characterization. Very close, very on the cusp. It was a likely characterization before, and it actually, I believe, it went more towards Clinton, which is pretty interesting. But, things change. Now we're going to look at the likely characterizations for President Trump. So the state of Texas is going to be a likely characterization. He won it by about 9 points. If anything, he's going to stay around the same range. The state of Alaska, he won it by about 14 points in 2016. Gary Johnson and other third parties did moderately well, but still keeping it within that likely characterization. What else? The state of South Carolina is also going to be a likely state. It was under 15 points, still going to retain under 15 points, along with the state of Georgia and North Carolina. Again, not North Carolina. Sorry about that. So Georgia and South Carolina, both solidly Republican states, both trending a bit more blue, especially compared to the 2012 and 2008 presidential elections. But, certain states in this country are definitely fluctuating no matter what. And even without a third party, they're still showing their new Democratic tendencies or Republican tendencies in the case of many other states. In addition to that, the states of Iowa and Ohio are also going to stay likely. This was a huge flip. It originally went to Barack Obama back in 2008 and 2012, both of these states, especially in 2008 by significant margins. But it went to President Trump by 8 and 9 points respectively, and it was really only improved by the third-party votes. What's next? Maine 2nd congressional district. Also, a huge flip. It went to Barack Obama by double digits, and then it went to Donald Trump by double digits. The third-party vote was kind of significant here. However, it did benefit Trump. And if anything, it's just going to continue to benefit Trump all throughout this map. Now we're going to go on to our lean characterizations. So this is when, some of it starts to get a little interesting. The first state for lean is the state of Arizona. So the state of Arizona, kind of interesting to understand, trending more blue, especially considering the fact that John McCain back in 2008 during a blue wave year, if you want to call it that, won it by double digits. It was his home state, but he still did win it by double digits. And it is trending more and more blue. Now it has a Democratic senator. It has more Democratic representatives than it does Republican. And it's likely going to go to Joe Biden and Mark Kelly, the Democratic Senate candidate currently in 2020. So the fact that it is still a lean state, even without, third-party voters, it's pretty significant. Going on to other lean Republican states, the states of Florida and North Carolina are also going to be lean states. Again, pretty contested states, very contested in 2020. Did go to President Trump by decent margins in their own respects. These are very competitive states, always close, but, did go to President Trump, and third-party voters did not necessarily make too much of a difference. The next lean state kind of, actually, no, I'm not going to get to that. Nebraska's 2nd congressional district is also going to be a lean characterization. Pretty close back in 2016, only decided by about 2 points or so. Again, going to be very close in 2020. I'm pretty sure it's currently leaning for Joe Biden, but, this is a district that definitely does fluctuate and can definitely change. So yeah, it's anyone's game at this point. And the next lean state, pretty interesting, is the state of Wisconsin. So President Trump won this state by a huge upset. Polling had Hillary Clinton up within, well, not within the margin of error. They basically were 100% certain that she was going to win this state, and Trump won it. So the fact that, if anything, this was Trump's best state in the entire Midwest region per se, uh, is pretty interesting. And the fact that third-party voters, if anything, helped Hillary Clinton in her loss, not her loss, but and her numbers. It's pretty interesting to think that they still blame third party voters when, if anything, third party voters took away from Trump more than anything. And now we are going to go on to the lean blue states. So the states of Nevada, Colorado, and Pennsylvania are all going to. Oh, and Minnesota are also going to be lean states. So the states of Minnesota and Nevada, I definitely think are going to be competitive in 2020. They could easily become, lean states again and are going to be targeted by the Trump campaign pretty heavily. However, the states of Colorado and Virginia trending more and more blue, both being likely states, potentially even being on the cusp of solid at this point. It's going to be very difficult for Trump to pick up these states, and I personally would not invest any money in these states. I don't think he would win them, and even a best case scenario. But Minnesota and Nevada, Minnesota very close to becoming a tilt state for Hillary Clinton. However, it just narrowly stayed in the lean margin. Now we are going to go on to the tilt states. So far, Trump is winning. Actually, he has won with 270 exact electoral votes. And when I'm talking about tilt states, if anything, the rest of these states on your map, are all going to President Trump. And the first flip of the night, New Hampshire, is actually going to go to President Trump. This New Hampshire was one of the closest states, if not the closest state, in 2016. It was only decided by a couple percentage points, if I can bring this up. It was only decided by 0.37 percentage points. It was the closest state in 2016. And with, Gary Johnson voters fluctuating towards Trump, with, Jill Stein voters somewhat helping Hillary Clinton, however, not having too much of a presence in the state of New Hampshire, it is pretty notable to think that, Hillary Clinton won this state in part due to the fact that there were third-party voters. The states of Michigan and Pennsylvania already pretty close. Third-party voters still keeping it, pretty close, helping Trump a little bit, but still retaining in their tilt margins. Both states within the margin of error that surprisingly did go to President Trump on Election Day. And Maine at large is the only tilt region per se for Hillary Clinton. It was a lean margin for her back in 2016. It narrowed up if you were to include third-party voters, despite the fact that Maine was one of the best showings for Jill Stein. So the fact that she is getting those voters is pretty interesting. So, looking at the 2016 presidential election, if third parties did not exist and, they were to go back to their own partisan party lines, Trump would have, if anything, would have improved on his margin. So the whole notion that third-party voters cost Hillary Clinton the election is generally unfounded. And looking at this map, it, if anything, hurt President Trump. So in 2016, with less of a, third-party presence, it is pretty easy to say that, Trump could do better. Or it could do better than, what the polls are currently saying. And I think that is not 100%, illegitimate. However, I think in, the age of, us improving in polls, us trying to look away from those shy Trump voters that did somewhat exist back in 2016, I don't think that too many of them actually are existing today. But, looking at all of this information, third-party voters are somewhat of a threat to the two-party system in the United States, and trying to persuade some of them over is going to be both up to the campaigns and the people of the United States in trying to lead a new vision for the country. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions for videos in the future that I can make. And thank you.